On today's show, I'm joined by Michael Ganassa, the owner of Washington Granite Marble. Now, they have a stone, tile, and cabinetry division. And Mike shares what it was like to take over running the stone division, um, being third generation in a family business, and how that actually happened somewhat unexpectedly, and what some of those challenges were like, and some of the lessons that he learned along the way. We also talk about some of the changes that Mike sees happening in the stone industry and what he's thinking about in terms of how to navigate and pivot to be able to stay competitive. We also talk about Mike's experience of going through the 90-day growth engine program. Due to the amount of time that he had available, he still has some work to do. He's completed his 90 days, but he's going to go back and finish a number of the things in our academy. But Mike shares how beneficial and impactful it was to gain a lot of clarity on really where he saw this business or where he sees this business going and what he really wants from it. He also shares what the process of installing what we call the B2B system, where he built a prospect database that surprised him in terms of the size of the number of designers, builders, and contractors that are in his market. Three generations, you would think that they would know everybody in their market. And he was shocked. He said that he could probably work off of these leads for years. He also shared what it was like to launch the system so that he could start to generate leads on an automated manner. So I think you're going to find this conversation valuable. I had a really great time talking to Mike. Let's go ahead and jump into the show. Thanks for joining me, Mike. But just curious, I know that this is generational, but how did you and your family get into the stone game?
Well, I would be third generation at this point. My grandfather on my father's side started out as just your simple tile man. Um, Not to, I mean, give him more credit than that. Not so simple, but from there, my dad and his brother kind of evolved the business to integrate stone, marble, and fabrication. Um, so from there, I came in as third generation wanting to work with my dad, and, yeah, I've been running the shop for about 10 years now.
Was there ever a time where you were like, I'm not going to go into the family business? I'm going to do something else?
There was probably a very brief moment in, maybe my early college years where I thought that, but it
Yeah.
didn't last very long. I knew I wanted to for the most part, I knew I wanted to follow in the footsteps.
Nice. Um, this is a bit of an interesting question for you since you're third generation and grew up and probably were just exposed to so much. But 10 years ago, before you stepped into the business, what's one thing, and I know your dad would have passed a lot of things down to you, but if there was something that you wish somebody had told you when you were just getting started, does anything come to mind that you would think of?
Yes, it's not necessarily something that I wish somebody maybe had told me, or taught me, but it's really just a lack of experience when you're put in those situations, and, maybe I did wish that, at that time I had done some kinda coaching or joined a group where other, young owners are kind of they can communicate in that kinda way. So, that might be the only thing, yeah, if I
Okay.
were to name one.
This is a loaded question, but and over 10 years, there's probably at different stages, different levels of hard. But maybe in the early days, maybe midway through, and then today, what are some of the hardest parts of running a shop?
Oh, man, I wouldn't know where to start. The hardest parts are just being on your A game all the time, but not just you, but everyone that you're accounted for.
Mm,
Um, I mean, it's endless what could go wrong, things that are outside of your control. But yeah, I guess right to name a few, just being prepared and having a plan. I think that might be kind of my biggest takeaway.
mhm. Or the biggest challenge would be having to be on your A game so much.
And then
Biggest challenge or
hardest part, yeah,
hardest parts are some of the unknowns and
unknowns.
some of the
And
things that are a little outside of your control.
right. So biggest takeaway being like what sets you up for success is having a plan, and the hardest parts are the things you can't plan for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have everyone's got a plan until you punch in the mouth.
Yeah.
Faced in situations that you haven't been in before,
Right.
and, but you learn from them. I guess that's yeah,
Mm.
there's something to be said about that.
What in terms of like the hard challenges when you ideally overcome them, what are ways that you I'm just riffing now, just kind of digging into that a little bit more, but what are ways that you can take those lessons and then for team members that weren't there, like kind of like be able to expand it or share that knowledge with everybody else?
Write it down, learn from it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, yeah. It, like you said, is a loaded question, it's tough.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's, hard things happening every day. Um, if, I think this question's very similar to the other ones, but for somebody else just getting started, what advice I'm sort of switching it up from what I was gonna ask you. But for those that are just getting started, like early years, let's say 3 years in, that's still
Mhm.
pretty early. What advice would you give somebody?
Try and have as many resources as possible. I mean, whatever that may be. And the people that you communicate with are probably could be one of your biggest assets. So in this industry, talking to other people that are in similar fields, talking to coaching like yourself, um, yeah, try and get as much of that as you can. I mean, you can only learn so much in day to day by being on the job. You learn a lot from it, but
Mhm,
having something like that, having good resources to go to, even if it's programs like the Natural Stone Institute, something like that. Never stop learning. Continue to educate yourself. All the above. It's really it's incredibly valuable.
awesome. These are just questions now that are coming to mind, but somebody in the early days, and if this is a question that doesn't quite line up because of how you took over the business, but let's say that shop that's 3 years in or in the early days of investing in equipment, machinery, what are some suggestions you might give on how to navigate that?
Well, that's a tough one because I personally I wasn't in the a lot of the decision making when it came to purchasing new equipment.
Mhm,
Um, we do. In the latest one that we bought maybe 5 years ago, I was involved in that, but it was more simple for us because we had already gone with a brand that we were more familiar with.
mhm,
Um, but what I could tell you, read reviews, do your research, talk to someone who owns these machines, uh, try and find out, from a productivity standpoint, what is it that you really need? Where are your bottlenecks? Is this machine gonna make you more profitable? What is it designed to do?
mhm. Yeah, because I do run into that some very often when we're having conversations with people that we don't end up working with, they will describe that they feel stuck with what they've ended up purchasing, and they've taken on
Yeah.
fair debt, and it turns out it's not the right tool for the job, as you're just saying.
Right.
Mm,
You can't always get lucky. Sometimes you think something's it's gonna come through for you, and then you end up not using it as much as you
mm,
wanted, and it's not the best investment.
yeah. What's, we're talking a little bit about the challenges, and there's no shortage of challenges and all the massive amount of oversight that you have to, shoulder. But with all of that, what's the when you decide like, you knew you wanted to go into business with your dad, what was it that you thought then that was gonna be, like, enjoyable, the part you'd love aside from, like, working alongside your dad? And then what is it today about the business that you love the most?
Well, so 2 parts. So going back to, yeah, what did I see? What was I excited for? I was definitely excited to work with family. At the time, I had when I did start, it was I had a cousin and an uncle that were in the business as well, and So I love the part about working with family. I generally did like the work, aside from the stuff I did when I was a teenager and I had to kind of do the grunt work, but I knew that that wouldn't last forever.
Right.
Um, and I saw the way that my dad had lived his life. It was something that I admired, and I could certainly see myself doing the same. Um,
Nice.
so what? And the second part of the question, remind
Like
me. Just say that
today's
again.
changed, right? Or maybe not, but what's the thing that you love about running the business now?
I love. I guess I love being in the position that I am and having the flexibility that
Mm,
comes with it.
mm,
That is probably the best part. I mean, it's also very rewarding. I mean, I have a team that I love. Everybody that I work with is great, and I love kind of having those relationships and being able to be in the position where I'm a manager and I feel like I'm making a difference. And I know it's kind of cheesy coming out and saying, but it means a lot. It's pretty fulfilling. That's probably the best word to describe it.
nice, awesome. Um, when you s I'm not sure how long the transition was of you stepping in, working to then, being fully in the driver's seat, but was there something that stands out in your mind of, like, the way your dad did things versus how you would wanna do things and a change that you made when you really took over?
Yeah, for sure. So me and my dad actually do work two different divisions for the most part. His day to day is the tile side, and mine is the fabrication shop. But it wasn't planned that way. Um, as I mentioned, my uncle and my cousin were in the business, and they were on the marble side. My dad was on the tile side, so the plan was for me to go into the tile side and work alongside with dad. My uncle ended up retiring. My cousin, who's just a few years older than me, he ended up leaving the business. So I had to step into the role for the marble shop manager. That was unexpected, and I had to learn a lot right away. And that was a moment in my professional career that I always look back on. That was a big turning point for me. It was is learning experience, and it was there's a big time stamp on that time when I had to step in there.
Yeah, and when you had to step in, was he there helping alongside you, or it was like, "Hey, right in there, you know, you're gonna
Yeah,
you're right frying pan?"
not so much. It was a little unexpected. I was yeah, to say the least, I was thrown in right away.
What was the, what was kind of the time like, how f was that right at the beginning?
No, this was this was actually about 8 years ago.
Okay, so 2 years in.
So I was only about yeah, I was only about 2 to 3 years. No, I was there long enough. I've been there for 12 years working full time, and I've been working as the call it the shop manager role for about 8.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
cool.
it was yeah, no, I had experience. I mean, I was doing more work on the tile side, but I was also dabbling in the marble side by doing some project management, some pricing, some jobs. So I was a little bit familiar with it, but uh, not in that capacity for sure.
Gotcha. This question comes from something that you had mentioned in your onboarding in the program that we never really talked about, but you had mentioned actually, let me just pull it up. You had mentioned just concerns over, like, the evolution, the future of the stone industry, and having an eye on, the potential need to pivot or adapt. What changes do you see coming, let's say, 3 years out, which I think is gonna go by really fast, and then if we're looking a lot further down the line, 10 years out, what are some of the changes that you think are gonna come?
I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately. Um, but changes, I guess, in the industry, things are, of course, going to start pivoting a little bit. There's always been a lot of competition, especially in my area. But um, I see things changing. How do I put this? let me go back to the way that I see my business. The way that what I'd like to see my business change is I kind of would like to pivot my model a little bit to go towards some of the more high end um, combination between commercial and residential still. I think that there with the rise in competition of fabricators, there's a much larger need for skilled labor and the need for skilled fabricators and installers. So, how we can set ourselves aside from the rest of the competition is incredibly important. We need to be able to show people that we know what we're doing. Um, we're not going to be doing the production builds that you get. You got just about anybody that can do that work. So we're going to look for things that are a little bit more challenging that a lot less companies are going after. But I also see the future of natural stone being used more and more, which is not something that I thought 10 years ago.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking differently now. I think that people do gravitate towards natural stone, and maybe you get the right clientele. They want something a little bit more elaborate. That will always stay. Maybe some of the production builds they're kind of going to change a little bit as far as what they're using and the price and everything, the labor that goes into that. I could put a lot of thought into this question, but that's what I got for the
Yeah.
moment.
So that's what you meant in terms of, like, pivoting towards your focus in the market because it's just getting more and more saturated, race to the bottom on the work that anybody can do. Would you agree that the it's both a challenge, but could be then competitive advantage, is talent acquisition and development? Because there's gonna be, like, skilled labor scarce and at a premium, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's certainly a challenge for us right now. Um, Not to say that it wasn't before, but yes, with the way things are going, I could definitely see a much greater need to having the skilled workforce. And as from the the model of not just pivoting my business model because I think it'll be make what am I trying to say? From not just because I want to do that kind of work, or not that I have to, but I want to. I
right.
think me pivoting towards a high-end residential, or high-end commercial is not only good for the bottom line, but it's something that me as a business owner, I'm more interested in, and to grow my business, I can see me kind of pivoting to things more like that.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it'll be interesting as we see, like, the shift in, um, AI replacing so many jobs that then trade skilled labor becoming something that people then hopefully move towards so that but it's gonna take time, right? It'll probably get harder for younger people before it gets easier, but then hopefully there is a shift where there'll be an influx into the trades as we're seeing in other industries, but then, the stone industry is its own little niche pocket that then
Yeah.
hopefully pulls down into after some of the more popular things like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, carpentry, things like that that I noticed that people are into, that they're into like woodworking because I don't know, it's an Instagram culture and the work that
Yeah.
people are in doing, they kind of gravitating towards that, working with their hands. But yeah, it'll be an interesting shift that happens.
Well, I mean, craftsmanship is still something that's admired, and people generally like doing it. I mean, woodworking is always fun. I mean, I like doing woodworking,
Mhm,
but as a stone guy, and I can't say that, shouldn't say that, but so maybe it'll translate to
mhm.
yeah, you know, reaching this side of things.
It's not like I've done research, but just from what I see online and on social media, it's like there's certain trade industries that are getting that kinda buzz, I guess, in that way, and even articles are being written, but, I feel like stone will be, pretty far down the line there.
Yeah, you really.
So, it'll be interesting, like, that's something of potentially for people of, like, a place to invest in advertising, marketing, etcetera, to attract people and create that in their own little local market of people that are, in school right now or in high school looking to what they're gonna do next, and maybe be at the forefront of that. Oh,
I
that's
think
good. Yeah.
it's also up to us to kind of put that out there, uh, that here are some of the really neat things that we can do, and
Yeah.
you probably you don't see this on your feed, but here, let me present a couple things that are really neat. Like, yeah, you could be a skilled artisan and you can carve marble for a living. Like, you probably have never seen something like this before. But
Yeah.
us as fabricators, it's our job to kind of put that out into the universe and make sure that it's, yeah, getting recognized.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Awesome. Um, so if we go back a little ways now to before the time you joined Driven for Growth and the 90-day growth engine program, what was business like at that time?
About 3 months ago, 3 to 4 months ago, business was, business was a little slow, and I would think I was um, looking for a little jolt, and I knew that I wanted to do some kind of coaching program for a while. I mean, years. I've been wanting to do something, had never really taken the time to do it. And but as far as, how is business different, or how is the business different maybe because of the program?
Yeah, I think we can definitely get there. I was just kind of thinking maybe I'll ask more specifically. So, when you joined the 90-day growth engine program, um, what were some of the main challenges you were facing and that you were looking to solve for or start to, because it's not a silver bullet, but start to install the systems to solve for?
Yeah, I like how the program, it got me really to think outside the box. I enjoyed the beginning stages where you're kind of laying the foundation, and it gets all the ideas out of you. I mean, ideas as far as like, well, where do you see this business being 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What is your end plan here? How do you think, how would you design it in your head if you could,
Mm.
hypothetically? And getting everything kind of written down, laid out, you get to look at it from, further back, that position. It's is really helpful, and it kind of opened my eyes to see, like, what do I really expect? What do I want in not just life, but in my business? How can I see this thing, um, being the best it can be? So that was, in the beginning, that's kind of the first thing I thought of. That was the biggest difference maker.
Nice. And when you first joined, I think the main thing that you were looking for, because things were slower, you were looking to increase volume of leads is what you had mentioned. I think when we ask in onboarding, like, what are your main goals, short-term goals? And yours were to increase leads. And what would success look like on the other side of 90 days is a question we ask. And you said that my expectations were met. So I know that's something that is in process still. And some of those things I think will still take time to um like for you to really see the value and the return on your investment and the level of leads that you're looking for. But that was the main outcome you were looking for when you joined, right? What were in terms of specifically, I guess, like when you came into this, you didn't know what we talked about installing a marketing machine. Now, you didn't know exactly what you were going to be doing. Maybe you could just share some of your experience of installing the marketing machine so that you could gain more consistency in lead generation. What was that experience like? What were some of the eye-opening things as you went through that?
So with the marketing machine, and I still actually want to go back and complete a lot of the school activities because I actually had to skip over them because of the timeline. But yeah, I remember actually, my I wanted to grow sales by about 15 to 20%. Um, that was something. Yeah, that was on my list. Now the marketing machine, I did dabble with the meta ads. And the B2B playbook is certainly something that I think is kind of more within the wheelhouse of what I'm trying to do. And the resources that Driven for Growth has set up for me, I think, are very valuable. I mean, Coldlytics and Instantly, these are things that I'm probably going to use for a long time, and I had no idea that they existed. So that the B2B campaign, is something that I can I mean, I just launched it, and I know that it takes time and is a numbers game, but I actually feel pretty good about it, and if anything, I have all these leads right here at my fingertips. So I don't want to let that go to waste.
Right. Yeah, if we go, on our side, just a little background, way back to when we first started B2B, we hadn't planned it, we were working with shops, they were looking for a solution. They asked us because we were coaching sales reps as a program at that time, could we help sales reps? And we kept trying to give the sales reps, the resources and tools they would need to find builders. We weren't aware of those resources like Coldlytics or Instantly at that time. So we hit a wall where the sales reps did in those programs didn't take the initiative, and the business owners still wanted, "We still want this to happen," and we're like, "Okay, let us take a crack at it." We had no idea about any of these tools, so we went onto Google. The way that we used to do it was just search on Google Maps for general contractors and builders, and
Near me or something.
manually build them all into a Google spreadsheet, and then we would, enter in we would go to the website, find the info ad email, the phone number, and it would take us hours and hours, and that's how we started years ago, and then we would reach out to them manually. Via Gmail accounts. We didn't know what we were doing at that time. It was years and years and years ago, and then we really studied the game. We hired some specialists to work on accounts, and they taught us what to do. Bring it to where we are now to provide like an automated, relatively automated once you do the setup system that you guys can install to, for example, Logan that gets like 1 lead a week. And it's different in every market, right? Yours might be more competitive than John's, for example. And, when you go to the next shop, and it is a numbers game, but you should start to see some solid traction from that. And I guess one other question would be there's because I get this a lot, and especially when we were doing it as a service, and I think that's how you and I first connected way back when, is we reached out because we were doing it as a service, and I think that's we emailed you, at that time, and we didn't even know how to send those emails. That was me sending Mike an email, at that time, one at a time. Um, but what I hear a lot is I've grown up in this area or, or second generation, like I drive around, I know all the builders and contractors. Like I still hear that a lot today. And what would you say just in terms of like as you were building your prospecting database is what we call it, and you were tasked with trying to build the total addressable market. Were you surprised at how many prospects there were in your area that you weren't familiar with after all this time, 3 generations?
Yes. It was, yeah, the number that came back right, I never would have thought it'd be that high.
Mhm.
I mean, there's enough leads there to keep me busy for years.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it's just my market or what, but even with just a 50-mile radius, yeah, there's a whole lot.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. With a 50-mile radius, it's shocking that, wow, there's 1,000, 1,200, 800, depending on, builders, contractors working on specifically the type of work that you're looking for. And because you are doing a bit of a not a manual approach like we used to do, you're gonna have some in there that may not be just the right fit.
Right.
That slips under the radar when you go through it. But what's the number that you ended up with out of curiosity?
For, well, I broke it between, contractor or remodelers, contractors, and designers,
Mhm.
and, right now I'm at 240 for contractors, and I'm at 475 for designers. Um, Actually, I didn't even do, contractors, I just did remodelers, which probably goes I mean, I'm sure if you search contractors, a lot of the same people are gonna show up, I'm sure.
Yeah, the way that they do it, it'll be well, there's multiple ways, but some is keyword based. So, like, on the website, depending on how they define themselves, they'll show up. But I would imagine there's gonna be a little bit of overlap, but I think you'd find another contractors is a loose term, though, because then you'll find stuff that's where you want to exclude. You can find all kinds of contractors, like people that do soundproofing foam or whatever, right, is also a contractor. So you have to, like, narrow it down, but I would imagine there'll be if that was the total amount of designers, not that that's what we're on here for, but I geek out on this stuff. So we're going down the rabbit hole. There's always more designers in a market. It's just our experience after years and years of doing it. So there's probably 250 to 300 contractors. If there's 400 designers, it's probably the ratio that's still there.
Yeah.
So we'd probably be able to creep up into the 1,000 range. And that's what we'd find is like based on population size of the market. If you're in a town that's less than 100,000 population wise, you're not going to get the numbers that Mike has. But if you're in a larger, more populous city, you should be able to find designers, builders, remodelers, and potentially have 1,000 to 1,500 prospects to work with. And if we think about that, we really just want to find the ones that are right for us and our business. And you just need a handful to work with year over year over year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
What and I know you worked pretty closely with Andreas to get things launched. If you could just speak on the level of support that he provided, and that you have in the program when going through sort of technical things.
Yeah, Andres was great. I mean, I shouted him out a couple times in our Wednesday calls. I mean,
Yeah.
he really helped me. Um, I consider myself to struggle a little bit with technology. I know enough to get by, but I mean, taking the time to kind of really go through each step is a process, and he had the time and the patience to kind of. He made some Loom videos for me. It was incredibly helpful. Um, yeah, I don't think I would have been able to launch the B2B at least so quickly without his help. He's very good at what he does.
Awesome. Awesome. He'll appreciate the shout out.
Mm.
Officially live here. Um, when and I know we provided that for you just not too long ago, but if you could share some thoughts on the process of identifying your competitive advantage, because that's something that we've helped shops with for years now. And when we first started working with shops, they would just say, we're the best. Like, what else do I need to tell you, Justin? We're just better than all these other guys. And I'm like, okay, that's great. That may or may not be true, but we really got to work on packaging that. But I've heard that a lot. And in our experience, if you were to put up 5 websites, everybody's saying very similar things, right? And now people have everybody's got, 12K slab scanner. Okay, somebody else has a 4K slab. Nobody cares about that when it comes to the residential homeowner. What would you say that process was like for you in terms of really figuring out what your competitive advantage is?
Well, I'm still going through it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been working on it. It's like constantly changing. I'm always updating it, finding new things. Again, it's not a silver bullet. It's kind of like what are all the things that you do right, and why did people choose to go with you? How can you like make their life better? Yeah,
Mm,
one of the pitches that I do, if I'm gonna go and see some of the B2B people in person, our my spiel is that I want to take the burden off of you. You bring your client to me. Let me do the work, the brain work, the manual work, whatever it is. Let me make your life easier. We are here to provide solutions um, for not just the builder but the homeowner. If there's a complicated project, we're the ones that figure it out. Here's
mm.
what we can do. Here's what we can do it for less. Here are your options. We're gonna work with you. We want you to have the best product that you can have. Um, but of course, I mean that's you can say everything, but it, it's the proof in the pudding. And we also take pride in our Google reviews.
Mhm.
For years, we do. I mean, we have people calling that say, "Yeah, I found you guys online. You have better reviews than your competition," and that obviously works very well for us. Um, but yeah, I mean that's what I would say about the competitive advantage. It is always changing, and I'm constantly looking for things that would make me more appealing. What are people looking for when it comes to these things, and what can I provide?
I know you're still finalizing it, like really probably getting comfortable with the packaging of it and the naming. And we had put together a draft. It doesn't mean you have to use that one, but to kind of take it a little further than you had. Specifically, what do you, and you may say, I don't think that is important because you and I haven't talked about it yet. But I'm curious to get your take on, do you agree and think it's valuable to create a unique mechanism to name, your competitive advantage and then package the benefits and the things that separate you from your competition inside of it. Was that a helpful process, or I know you're still kinda going through it a little bit?
I'm still going through it and seeing if it might be something that will work for us. So mine was the builder priority program,
Mhm.
right? And that's pretty much how we treat our top clients. Of course, I love the idea. It is definitely something that we can do. The and then there's that saying, 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients, right? So you always want to take care of that 20%. And how much bigger can you get that 20%? The idea behind the B2B is that you're going to reach out to so many people and you're going to say the same thing. You say you're going to, I want you to be, we have a couple spots left in our B2B program or our build a priority program if you want to get in. But the challenge is that how can you truly treat everybody the same? Right?
Right.
In our industry, we have constant schedule changes,
Yeah.
late projects, and they all want to take priority. So it is a balancing act. How can you do it? Maybe the time is right where you can accommodate these people. But in a lot of cases, sometimes these jobs fall on top of each other at the same time. And it's really hard to pick and choose who you need to prioritize
Mhm.
and who you won't.
I think there's something there because the competitive advantage when packaged and you put all the shiny things inside of it, I think that people are very skeptical now, right? They're like, "Yeah, that sounds too good to be true." I've had the balls dropped on me so many times, uh,
Yeah.
that I hadn't thought of this before, but just in talking to you now, part of what could work well is to have the builder priority program, the communications that are going out through the B2B system. And this is something that's a little more advanced, but we used to do this for clients. And so we took the tough parts out of it. But since you're familiar with recording Loom videos, you could record a little video for them and just be really open, honest, and transparent and kind of share what you just shared, that it's not, there's going to be times where it's not perfect. There's going to be times where, due to the shifting landscape of the schedule, that there's a rippling effect and delays. Know that we truly care. I mean, that's part of it, right? We're going to do everything in our power to navigate this, um, so that none of our clients in this program, get the short end of the stick. And while it may be imperfect, we're going to do, da 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 da. I think just open conversations like that, if you include something like that, like a little PS in the email that goes out, they happen to watch that. They're like, hey, this guy's just shooting it to me straight. I can appreciate that. And here's what they deliver. That might work very well.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing that you do want is to overpromise and underdeliver, and
Yeah.
that'd be the thing that I kind of fear the most. But transparency is, that is something that we do very well. I mean, we're very honest. People trust us, and I have no problem sharing with people like, "Hey, no, this is what my schedule looks like. I don't mind showing it to you.
Yeah.
I got this, and this, and I'd love to try to squeeze you in, but you can see how challenging it is." But
Right.
yeah, that's very
Yeah. In
important.
terms of like that front end outreach, because you know the deal, right? Everybody's like, this is our turnaround time. This is this, and everything will be perfect, right? And in the countertop and stove and fab game, that's so much of the messaging. It's even how companies name themselves. I won't shout out any specifically, but they name themselves based around that things will be perfect. It will be done with absolute precision or whatever it may be. And so sometimes that that might be setting us up for failure, right? Right from the get go. So
Right.
that would be a nice way to round out your competitive advantage as well of what you said of, "Hey, let me take on your problems," in terms of doing the brain work, as you said, doing the labor work, figuring out the Jenga of everything that needs to happen. And at the end of the day, we're going to do our, our very best. Here's our track record. Um, and if ever anything isn't to your expectation, we're going to do our best to make it right, you know, something like
Yeah.
that. So just kind
Yeah.
of rule it out, because I think sometimes, yeah, when people get those messages, they're like, "Sure, that sounds too good to be true," and it's just like the last time. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But
just
yeah, that our mantra is just open communication and trust, and we'll show you the results. We have proven track record, so
yeah,
yeah, take that for what it's worth, I guess.
I like that. Um, so what made you actually decide? Because you were saying you were thinking about it for years, and I remember you saying when I asked you that question, just on our call, I think you said a timing thing, but what was it that made you decide, "Hey, I'm gonna do this time," like, at this specific time when you joined the program?
You know what? It's actually, funny you say it like that because I think it actually came down to, like, a trust and a comfort thing because I saw that you had worked with, some fabricators that I know,
Okay,
and, so that went a long way.
got
You know,
it.
Alex did, and, Rye Marble and, my gosh, DiPietro,
Yeah.
those guys, yeah.
So I know that you're still in process, you're still doing the and it's nice to hear that you're thinking, "Hey, I'll go back," and some of these things are things you'll continue to use for years to come. I don't think anybody's said that specifically about the B2B. I think
Yep.
my take on it is with the B2B system, it's kinda like, "Hey, I'm gonna launch this. I want a ton of leads," and then I haven't really gotten that sense from anybody that they see that as I mean, that's what we want people to use it as a system that's with you for the lifespan of your business because if you were to hire like a commission-based business development rep right at Washington, they would be tasked with doing this till the end of time, right? To land you more accounts, and you wouldn't be like, "Hey, man, come in 90 days, guns blazing, and then, cool, just, we're gonna stop after that," right? So it's really awesome to hear you say that you're gonna use those things, um, for a long time. What was a moment early on where you realized, "Hey, this is actually gonna work," or like, I believe in the systems that, these guys have set up." And you might say, "I don't still," but I'm hoping there's something there.
No, I would say pretty early on. Um, I don't know if there was any specific moment that kinda told me that, but I just the itinerary is kinda laid out for you where just that, "Okay, like, this makes a lot of sense, and if I can just put in the work and the effort, I can really see this thing working for me."
Okay, cool. Nice, yeah, we've kind of gone through it meticulously. We've built it 2.5 times, like, again, and we'll
Yeah.
probably finish the other half, like, redoing it. And that was a vote of confidence to come into it and see, "Okay, this is really well laid out," you'd say?
I would say. That's what yep,
Nice, nice.
yep.
Um, so what's if you had to just point to one, what's the most valuable system that you've installed?
I I'll go back to the B2B. I think that system in the leads, um, I think that that's gonna be most valuable for me. 'Cause that's where the majority of my business has historically come from, and I think will continue to come from. Um, so I need to, gas pedal's gotta be down, and I gotta use those resources.
Awesome. Yeah, what I would say about that is it's much like the meta ad campaigns, just harder to test. Can't do like that rapid test in 3 days and know, okay, these GCs, it is resonating this messaging. And so the testing does take longer. You're gonna get some people that are like, stop, right? They're like, please stop, leave me alone, take me off your list. But that's the same as if you were reaching out and calling them. They would do the
Sure.
same. And if you're gonna do it for years and years, it just takes a little bit of creativity later down the line to keep reaching out to people. There's like Rye Marble, for example, 4 years straight, we were doing it, manually, until we learned better, manually doing that, and for when you contact a developer, a builder, 4 years later, you have to have something new to say. So we'd really have to dig into our bag and come up with a new reason why we're reaching out, but we would just never stop. And it was interesting that it would definitely have diminishing returns. Like, I think Alex, you mentioned him. I think it was like 100 leads in 90 days or something. It was amazing because I mean, they're in Westchester, so it's like you could trip over builders and designers, right? And so it was like a lead a day. But then 4 years later, you can imagine just how hard it was for us. But there were those people that would be like, "I've gotten these emails for years, and now's the time. Like, my fabricator's retiring. So now, I'm ready." We were
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Okay, great." And you just keep the foot on the gas and just keep going.
Yeah, having and working on that script too, like, right, if I call them or if I wanna go see them, I gotta be prepared, I gotta have the right thing to say,
Yeah.
and working on that, yeah, that's something that I continue to yeah, need to work on.
Yeah, that'll be what moves mountains. Like, the email will we'll give it a nudge. You'll get some results. Going by and seeing people dropping in and having some calls made is what will give you an exponential return for
Right.
sure. Awesome. Think that is there, if you had to point to it, as we land the plane here, what was the main, like, how does your business feel, if it does at all, differently than when you first joined? And I know it might be small, but
It might be small, but, in the beginning, when I was reading, like, Buying Back Your Time, I actually think the Buying Back Your Time did a lot for me. Um, I think that was the gift from you, if that I can remembering right.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he sent you, yeah, the book in the mail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I really did that. It did help. I've delegated certain tasks, little things that I was doing 3 months ago that I've actually gained some significant time from, and, that little thing in the beginning, it made a huge impact, and it's little things like that that can, continue, right? I mean, you find, once your brain starts moving in that type of way, you begin to think, look for other things, and, um, I think, yeah, more like that. That's one thing that comes to mind. I know that there could be more. Give me some more
Yeah.
time, but
Yeah,
yeah.
time is the most valuable resource, and we didn't start that way, but we learned over time that the owners that were coming to us were overwhelmed and they were the bottleneck. And if we didn't find a way to free up some of their time, then they wouldn't be able to have success. They would never get to implementing the systems that would see them get the results that they wanted. So we're like, okay, we've got to put that at the very beginning and add that first mission part
Yeah.
that you always go through to really redefine what does owning and running the business look like, and what should you actually be working on, and how do you buy back your time or reclaim ownership, as we call it. So yeah, we didn't start that way years ago, and then we realized, man, we're banging our heads against the wall here trying to implement these things. What are we going to
It
do?
Yeah, it's so important, and it really I mean, I had thought about it before I did the program, but I was doing everything. I mean, I still do a lot,
Yeah,
and it really just takes time. It takes you out of the business. You need to be able to work on the business, and, just being so stuck and getting over that hump is been challenging, but I can kinda see the light a little bit here.
yeah. I think I know you've got a full plate, and then over time, as you really fully install and adopt certain tools, a lot of that freedom will unlock. And one of those things is like the playbook capture method of when you're just like, "Hey, yeah, I still do this thing over and over and over again," even if it's just maybe like chasing down some sorry, some like outstanding like receivables. Let's just say.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
No,
just
I
making.
still
Yeah, yeah. Right. And you're just like, okay. See, it's like sometimes we just got to pause and be like, okay, that was on my task transfer list. I don't even know who I'm going to delegate this to right now, but it'll take me an extra 15 minutes, but I'll capture the playbook so that when I do have somebody or I find somebody and I make an intentional effort to find somebody, I can just hand this off. Because I've even found for myself there's things that I'm only letting go of now that I have a team that could have done it, but I'm just like, this will take me longer to transfer to them right now. It's just a quick 5 minutes. I'll just do it this one more time. And that one more time, I'll do it for another year.
Of
You know?
course. Yeah,
So
and that's one of the things I really wanna work on next is, creating those playbooks and the onboarding manuals and everything like that.
yeah,
That would be a big help, yes.
yeah, that'll be huge. So those are other not small. That's actually quite large. Those are other significant projects you're going to work on from your strategic growth game plan. I think one of the first things is to start to map things out, and then you're going to build your playbooks. And those playbooks then can sit inside the new hire onboarding resources. So as you
Yeah,
hire people, they can get up to speed really quickly.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that'll be a game changer for you too. Yeah. Awesome. So I think last kind of question for you would be is for somebody else that's thinking about joining the program, what would you tell them?
Do it, do it. I mean, having these resources that I mean, it's right, like, it's invaluable. I mean, yeah, it takes a lot of time and effort. You should be doing the work that's involved, and finding the time to do that, but that's part of the process of finding time in general. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say no, it was very much worth it. I enjoyed it. I enjoy our Wednesday phone calls. Just being part of something, I mean, it gets your brain moving, and it's like exercising, but in the business form. But
Oh,
definitely recommend it.
I love that. I appreciate your time so much, Mike. Appreciated jamming on some stuff early on with you and for you sharing your experience. I honestly didn't know some of the answers you were gonna say because we haven't caught up on some things. Man, we really appreciate your feedback. Yeah, and you showing up
Sure.
and doing the work.
Feel free to use that edit tool.
What's that? Yeah, yeah, we're gonna have to. I appreciate it. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
my pleasure. All right, thanks, Justin.
Thank you, man.